You're doing everything right. You're journaling. You're visualizing. You're healing. You're pushing past fear. You're chasing alignment like it's a destination. But nothing's shifting. And that ache, that quiet heartbreak that comes from doing all the right things and still feeling stuck, it's not because you're broken. It's because you're trying to force a door that was never meant to be opened with effort. Pause. Breathe that in. You've been trying to out-strategize something that doesn't live in strategy. Trying to outthink a field that doesn't speak in thought. You've been speaking English to something that only hears frequency. Reality is not a scoreboard. It's a mirror, a tuning fork, a silent witness that responds not to what you say, but to what you are, the energy you walk in, the signals you carry when no one's watching, the tone underneath you're trying. You can't manipulate it. You can't fake it. You can't force it, because the deeper intelligence that shapes your life doesn't care what you want. It listens to what you believe when you're not trying to convince yourself otherwise. So the more you force, the more it reflects the frequency of force. The more you try to become enough, the more it echoes back. You are still not enough. But what if that isn't the trap? It's the key. What if you don't need to work harder? What if you just need to tune differently? You say you're stuck, but what if you're not? What if nothing is broken? You're just inside a loop that hasn't finished its cycle. Not stuck, just repeating. Because the subconscious isn't designed for change. It's designed for certainty, for keeping you inside the familiar, even if the familiar hurts. To your nervous system, pain that's predictable feels safer than peace that's unknown. This is not sabotage. This is survival. That same pattern you swore you'd never repeat, the one that keeps showing up in your relationships, your money, your identity, it's not a sign of failure. It's a sign of deep, ancient protection. You learned, maybe long ago, that chaos meant connection. That dimming your light meant safety. That waiting meant love. And so, your body remembers. It remembers how to flinch before trusting, how to brace before receiving, how to prepare for the crash, even when no storm is coming. This is why change feels so hard. Not because you're lazy, not because you're lost, but because transformation asks your body to let go of its oldest language. Familiarity. The truth? You're not behind. You're not failing. You're just fluent in a rhythm that no longer matches who you're becoming. And now, gently, you're being invited to unlearn the beat. But safety isn't the same as truth. And that brings us to the next layer. You think you're thinking, but you're not. You're remembering, echoing, replaying a rhythm that was set long before this moment. The mind is not a live broadcast. It's a record player. Spinning loops, familiar chords, tracks you didn't even know were still playing. Science tells us this. Up to 90% of what you think, feel, and do each day is not new. It's predictive, patterned, programmed. Not because you're unaware, but because your subconscious is efficient. It conserves energy by recycling what it knows. And what it knows is the past. Every reaction, every fear, every belief about love, worth, possibility is stitched from signals your body memorized years ago. Your subconscious isn't a creator. It's a library. And unless you interrupt the loop, it cannot write a new chapter. This is why intention isn't enough. You can say the affirmation. You can visualize the outcome. But if your inner system is still running the old data, it can't hear the new request because it doesn't recognize what it hasn't felt before. Joy that feels unsafe will be rejected. Peace that feels unfamiliar will be sabotaged. Love that doesn't match your old wound will be questioned. And so, nothing changes. Not because you're broken, but because your mind is doing exactly what it was designed to do. Repeat what it believes keeps you alive. You're not manifesting a future. You're repeating a memory. You can want peace. You can pray for abundance. You can visualize love until the image burns into your mind. But the field doesn't move for wanting. It moves for being. Intention is a thought. Identity is a frequency. The quantum doesn't respond to what you wish for. It responds to the signal you broadcast. Not through words, but through vibration. You may say, I am ready for change. But if the signal underneath still whispers fear, if the nervous system still clings to scarcity, then the field hears, I'm not safe enough to receive it. This is the silent contradiction that confuses so many. Why am I doing the inner work, but not seeing the outer shift? Because you're asking reality to deliver something you haven't yet become. It's like trying to feel warmth from a fire you haven't built. The logs are your habits. The spark is your emotion. The heat, that's embodiment. Wanting love while vibrating in abandonment is like sending out a signal with no receiver. Wanting abundance while embodying lack is like asking the mirror to smile first. There is no judgment in this, only physics, only coherence. When identity and intention don't match, the field stays still. But when your being aligns with your asking, when your inner state is the frequency of the outcome, that's when reality bends. Softly, silently, precisely. So how do we shift that identity? Not just mentally, but energetically. We've been taught to wait, to see proof before believing, to feel joy once the outcome comes, to feel safe once life rearranges. But in the quantum, it's reversed. You don't feel different because your reality changed. Your reality changes because you feel different. This is not wishful thinking. It's resonance. It's biology. It's physics. Your nervous system is an antenna. Your heart, a transmitter. Your mind, a pattern recognition machine. When you rehearse a new emotion, when you feel as if it's already here, you lay new neural pathways. You shift your chemical baseline. You become the cause, not the effect. This is what mystics knew long before science confirmed it. You are not waiting for a future moment. You are becoming it. Now, here, in breath, in tone, in posture, in presence. Can you feel the calm of the version of you who already made it? Can you soften into the piece of the timeline where it already happened? Can you practice safety before the world gives it to you? You're not faking it. You're tuning. Like an instrument, signal is clear. Your body becomes life harmonizes with it. People respond differently. Opportunities feel magnetized. The air even changes texture. This is not magic. It's coherence. You are not chasing the future. You're embodying it. You're not waiting for the moment to arrive. You are becoming the moment itself. You've had the insight. You've visualized the shift. You felt the new frequency in glimpses. But then, you collapse, or overthink, or fall back into the loop. Why? Because your nervous system didn't feel safe there. This is the hidden architecture of change. Not in the mind, but in the body. Your nervous system is not listening to your goals. It's listening to your survival patterns. It doesn't ask, is this what we want? It asks, is this what we know? And what it knows is the familiar ache of over-efforting, the background hum of anxiety, the loop of proving, fixing, striving. This is where trauma lives. Not just in memory, but in rhythm. Your baseline becomes distorted, always doing, rarely receiving, mistaking adrenaline for aliveness. So when expansion knocks, when peace enters the room, it feels foreign, unfamiliar, unsafe, and so you shut the door without even realizing it. This is why you don't need to force the new you. You need to make your body feel safe enough to receive it, through the breath, through stillness, through gentle co-regulation with spaces and people who remind your system. You don't have to brace anymore, because when the body softens, the frequency lands, the signal becomes clear, and the shift becomes sustainable. Not just a moment of alignment, but a new baseline of being. What if life isn't against you, but speaking through you? What if that delay, that trigger, that familiar pain that keeps circling back is not a punishment, but a mirror? Reality isn't fixed. It's responsive, not a static fate handed down from the skies, but a living field of feedback, reflecting who you're being in every moment. This is the mirror principle. What shows up in your life is showing you your signal. You're not being judged. You're being reflected. You're not cursed. You're being calibrated. It's not that you're doing it wrong. It's that you're out of tune. Imagine trying to hear a beautiful song, but your radio's slightly off the station. There's static, distortion, confusion. Not because the song isn't there, but because the receiver needs adjustment. So when a relationship breaks down, when the money doesn't flow, when anxiety returns like a ghost, the question isn't, what's wrong with me? It's, what does this moment try to reveal about my frequency? Pause. Feel the shift in that. This is how you reclaim your power, not by controlling every outcome, but by listening to the reflection. You're not a victim of fate. You're the author of a broadcast. And every reflection is a gentle nudge. Realign. Reattune. Remember who you are beneath the noise. Manifestation isn't about thinking harder. It's not about obsessing over vision boards or scripting the perfect affirmation, because thought alone is a fragment. The true power comes when the whole system speaks the same language. This is coherence. When your mind, your heart, and your body are in harmony. Most people are broadcasting mixed signals. The mind says, I believe, but the heart whispers, I'm afraid, and the body still clenches with doubt. This creates static, like trying to tune into a frequency while 3 different songs are playing at once. But when clarity settles, when your nervous system feels safe, your heart feels open, and your mind feels certain, that's coherence. And coherence is magnetic. Your heart emits an electromagnetic field, thousands of times stronger than your brain. Your gut is filled with neurons, a second brain that feels before you think. When these centers align, when thought is backed by elevated emotion, and emotion is stabilized by somatic safety, the field listens. Reality shifts. The mirror reflects the whole of you, not just the part that's trying. You become a clear signal, a tuning fork that reality harmonizes with, not through force, but through frequency. This is the science of the soul, the moment when magnetism replaces effort, when who you are becomes louder than what you want. Because when your entire being speaks one frequency, the field has no choice but to respond. Identity. We think it's who we are, but it's more often who we've been taught to feel safe being. A mask shaped by praise and protection. A signal sculpted not by truth, but by trauma. You weren't born hesitant. You learned hesitation kept the peace. You weren't born small. You learned that shrinking made you acceptable. The you think you are might be nothing more than a survival loop. And survival loops aren't wrong. They were brilliant. They kept you alive, loved, included, safe. But now, they're keeping you stuck. Because your identity, if built on defense, will always emit a distorted signal. Not out of malice, out of memory. This is the loop. Not of logic, but of vibration. So how do we break it? Not by becoming something new, but by releasing what was never you. The old self isn't your enemy. It's a strategy, a brilliant adaptation that no longer fits. You're not here to shame it. You're here to retire it. With grace, with honor, with breath. Underneath, it lives the signal self. The version of you that vibrates in clarity, in truth, in coherence, in freedom. You don't have to become anything. You just have to stop broadcasting what you're not. It's simple. That's the part no one wants to believe. Shifting isn't complicated. It's not a secret formula, a 10-step plan, or a cosmic loophole. It's natural, organic, soft, a return, not a reach. But here's the paradox. Simplicity only feels simple once your body feels safe. Until then, ease feels threatening. Stillness feels exposed. Peace feels wrong. Because when you've been conditioned to survive through effort, through chaos, through control, simplicity doesn't feel right. It feels like something must be missing. And so we complicate. We spin. We try to earn what is already ours. But this isn't because you're broken. It's because you're brave. You were trained to struggle. Not because you were meant to suffer, but because somewhere along the way, struggle became the currency of love, of safety, of being enough. So of course simplicity feels foreign. Of course stillness feels suspicious. You've simply outgrown the survival suit. Now it's time to take it off. Not through force, but through surrender. You don't climb into coherence. You fall into it. You return. This is the great remembering, that the real you doesn't live in effort, but in ease. And what's natural to your system will never have to be forced. There's not just one version of you, not one path, not one destiny carved in stone. There are timelines, plural, each one humming with a different frequency, each one already alive, waiting for you to tune in. Your life isn't a straight line. It's a signal, a frequency you keep dialing into through your emotions, through your beliefs, through your expectations. You don't leap into a new timeline. You remember it. You don't push your way there. You match it. It's less about doing, more about becoming. Less about force, more about fidelity. Like tuning a radio. The music is already playing. You just couldn't hear it until you align the dial. This is why every thought matters. Why every emotion send a ripple. Because the field is always listening. Not to your words, but to your signal. The moment you shift your state, you shift your stream. You're not chasing your future. You're picking the version of reality that already mirrors who you are being now. No striving, no proving, no perfect plan, just presence, clarity, attunement. And here's the quiet truth. The version of you you've been waiting for, the one who already holds the peace, the power, the love, they're not far. They're not future. They're already broadcasting. All that's left is to match the station. This is where the mind steps aside and the body begins to speak. Because thought creates the blueprint, but feeling is the signal. Your body is the subconscious. It doesn't listen to your words. It listens to your state. You could say, I am worthy 1,000 times. But if your breath is shallow, your shoulders tense, your chest guarded, the field will listen to that. So here's the shift. You don't wait for peace. You become peace. You don't chase love. You tune a love. You don't force abundance. You feel its alreadiness in your cells. This is the practice of emotional rehearsal. To sit in the energy of what you used to believe was out there and bring it in here. Close your eyes just for a moment. Can you feel what it's like to already have it? To already be it? To walk into the room as the version of you who no longer waits to become? Not fantasy, not pretending, just alignment, embodied truth. You are the music. Before the world hears the song. Your nervous system doesn't need evidence. It needs permission. Permission to feel safe, to soften, to open. Because the future doesn't arrive. It amplifies from the tone you hold now. So let me ask you, gently, softly, can you let yourself feel safe in the future now? Insight is a doorway, but integration, that's the walk home. The shift doesn't end when you feel it once. It begins when you learn to hold it, even when the world hasn't caught up. This is the real work, not to force reality into shape, but to stay in frequency before it shows up in form. You're being asked to believe it before it believes in you, to feel abundant when the numbers still say otherwise, to feel loved when the mirror still looks unsure, to feel whole while your outer life still rearranges. And this is where most people let go, because they think the emotion should match the evidence. But in truth, the evidence will always mirror the emotion you stabilize. So how do you stay steady? You signal to your body gently daily, through breath, through micro movements that say, I am safe, through visualizations that aren't just mental pictures, but full body rehearsals of peace. You take walks as your future self. You dress with intention. You eat, speak, rest from that identity. Not for show, not to perform, but to remind your system. This isn't unfamiliar anymore. This is who we are now. Because you don't hold the energy once. You hold it until it holds you. Until coherence is no longer a peak state, but your baseline, your resting tone, your home frequency. This is how the new becomes real. Not through waiting, but through wiring. Everything you've been chasing was never outside you. Not the peace, not the clarity, not the love. It was never held back, never withheld, never test. The field was never judging you, only reflecting you, waiting for the moment. You'd stop proving and start remembering. The mirror didn't lie. It just echoed the signal you were broadcasting. And now, something inside you is tuning, not toward effort, but toward truth. You're not behind. You're not late. You're just beginning to listen differently, to speak in the language of vibration, to trust the wisdom of your body, to let go of the versions of you that were built only to survive. Now you get to live. You don't need permission. You don't need to fix yourself. You don't even need to fully understand. You just need to return to your natural frequency, to the inner signal that was always clear. Beneath the static, you're the music. You are the signal. You're the shift. And the field, it's already responding. Quietly. Perfectly. Right on time. So as you move through this next moment, walk slower. Breathe deeper. Speak softer. Let your life become the mirror that reflects who you've decided to be. And if you feel called, drop one word in the comments. Your chosen frequency for this week. A single word that reminds the field of who you've already become.